anniversary of Earth Day as well. I am excited to be here with my friend Abby Beck tonight. Hi, Abby. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And we are here to discuss some ways that all of us can tackle climate change locally. And while we are under a stay-at-home order as well, there's still a lot that we can be doing. So without further ado, let's get into talking about these items. I did get this list, or most of this list, from the earthday.org website, which is a fabulous resource with a lot of information, a lot of ways that people can get active and engaged in climate action. So one of the first things that they talk about as an option for climate action is going plant-based and composting. I think we probably all know that a more plant-based diet is healthier for us physically. It's also better for the environment. I guess one recommendation in terms of if you're looking to get a little more plant-based in your diet and looking for recipes would be to look for your e-recipe books from your library. And then also look at local farmers markets. And I believe we have some resources to share on that. Abby, do you have more to share about that?
Absolutely. The Batavia Farmers Market, I've been involved with that for a couple of years now, so I highly recommend. There is still an indoor market running, and they are doing curbside pickup. So if you go to Batavia Farmers Market, Indoor Farmers Market on Facebook, you can find all the ways to order still, to order more locally. Of course, the farther our food has to travel to get to us, the more energy that it takes to not only produce, but transport, et cetera, et cetera. So there's great savings in terms of minimizing our carbon footprint by eating locally. But then in terms of composting is it's something we've picked up, we've been better about here with the quarantine because we've had a little bit more free time, a little bit more bandwidth to do it. The USDA estimates that we waste 30 to 40% of our food already, which contributes heavily to greenhouse gas emissions because that food going to a landfill. One interesting factoid I found from the movie Wasted, the Batavia Environmental Commission hosted a movie called Wasted a few years ago at the Green Night at the Movies. Do you have any idea how long it takes a head of lettuce, if it's put in the landfill, to decompose?
I would guess a couple weeks.
25 years.
Whoa, a head of lettuce?
A head of lettuce. When you think about it's organic material or like disposable plates and disposable cups that say compostable, those they compost when they are composted. And a composting system is very different than a landfill system. The conditions are not right in a landfill for these things to actually biodegrade in a quick manner. So a head of lettuce, 25 years. Think about that when you're putting anything in your trash. So, and it's just composting is a fun activity. And in Batavia, I think Geneva and soon St. Charles, during the summer months when yard waste is collected, you can put food scraps into your yard waste bags and it'll be picked up with your yard waste. So it's an easy way to get started if you don't want to have an actual compost system in your backyard.
Geneva does offer that. I believe that you can actually get a bin to put that in as well.
Which is nice. The bags are a little critter friendly, maybe. So yeah, the bins are definitely preferred.
Yes, for sure. What about, are there specific rules? I know we all can do a little better with our recycling habits in terms of knowing what's recyclable, what's not recyclable. Are there rules that are important to follow with composting as well?
There is. So accepted items are fruit and veggie scraps, of course, dairy and eggs, like shells, no liquids, but shells and stuff like that can go in there. Coffee grounds and filters even, and tea bags. So even that paper that can go in there as well. And paper products like tissues and paper towels can all go in there. But anything meat or greasy or, again, the paper plates and the paper cups, even if they say on there that they're compostable, they're not supposed to go into our composting program around here. Diapers and pet waste, nothing like that can go in there. as well.
Sure, that makes sense. All right, the next idea that the Earth Day organization gave was to choose reading over streaming, which is interesting right now, especially since all of our kids are e-learning, and we're all glued to our social media to find out what's going on in the world. But it's good, it's good for the Earth to step away from that because of the carbon emissions from streaming. It's probably also good for our mental health to take a step away and read a real book. So I think we both have some book recommendations.
Yeah.
We've got the classics, Giving Tree.
Oh, yeah.
Always the Giving Tree.
I'm in my kids' room, so you can see their bookshelf over there.
I love it.
I think we read it today.
As well as the Lorax.
Yeah, it's so good.
This is another favorite of mine, At the World Village.
Yeah.
It gives a good, wonderful breakdown for kids about looking at numbers of things and the people in the world, plants and animals in the world, and how everybody affects each other, and numbers too. So it's very interesting. We've got Living Sunlight, learning how plants bring the earth to life, the importance of plants to our world. And then some upper level reading, middle school to high school level reading. These were recommended by my kids. Carl Hiaasen's Flush. Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, yep.
This is a favorite of my kids. Riptide by Cat Falls. And Trash. I believe they read this one in school as well. So that comes highly recommended. Trash by Andy Mulligan. And The Evolution of Calpurnia Tate. And that's actually my bookmark because I did start reading this one. Those are my recommendations. Do you have some book recommendations yourself?
It made me think of two that I didn't pull off the shelf here, and I don't think they're with arm's reach, but two that we picked up for the boys at a peaceful parlor in Geneva was Earl the Earthworm, which is so cute.
Nice.
And talks about the role of the earthworm and how he's so interconnected with the rest of an ecosystem. And then The Environment A to Z, which is in the Earth book. Those three, all available locally. Highly recommend those. So I pulled a few that I am currently in the middle of, which I hate that I'm in the middle of multiple books, but I've been reading The Death and Life of Great American Cities for years now. I've read most of it in grad school, but just not all the way through. But I keep starting and stopping that because I get these other books. So a friend loaned me Walkable City, walkability and bikeability, and advocating for those in our land use policies is kind of the product of my environmental education. So that one is really great.
Fabulous.
And then Strong Towns, which kind of talks about the cities from a resiliency approach, which involves both economics and social and then environmental pieces, kind of a cohesive look. And then I was supposed to do a book club with this one, which got canceled for coronavirus, so I'm halfway through that. And then one of my favorite books that I got for the boys recently is Walking in the City with Jane, which is based on Death and Life of Great American Cities. It's Jane Jacobs. So it's the kid version of what it's like to walk your city and see your city from her perspective, which I just love. The boys don't love it as much as I do.
That's really neat.
But I love that one.
And we do have a lot of fabulous local bookstores that are doing curbside pickup, and some of them have online ordering available. So it'd be a great time to give them some business, help support them, as well as put in an order for some books that will help us learn more about caring for our environment at every age. All right. The next tip we have from earthday.org is when life gives you lemons, make disinfectants. This is not something that everybody does. And obviously, when you are making something specifically for disinfecting, you need to make sure that your alcohol content is strong enough to actually kill germs and bacteria. So I do actually make cleaners myself using rubbing alcohol. Fairly simple. If you dilute it, you make sure that you keep that strong enough concentration. You can dilute it. You can add a drop of dish soap, drop of essential oil. But it's one way to minimize the harsh chemicals that we're releasing. Another trick that I like to use is the old volcano baking soda vinegar to clean the drains. Kids like that one too. It's fun.
Yes.
So that is one other tip that they gave us. The next one, which is a big one and does require some research, but is also fun, and it's something that's much more available to us all right now, which is switching to green power. It's something that we're actually currently working on in our home. We're working with a company that actually leases the solar panels. So I know we're in the process of getting the permits and all of that straightened out, but it's really exciting to be able to do this. I know not every home is perfectly situated for solar power. We came close because we do have a lot of big trees around our house, but we were able to meet the criteria for that. So there are many options available right now, especially with solar in Illinois, for either buying or leasing. There's also community solar, which is a great option for people whose homes are not situated just right for solar power. And there are a lot of resources available to learn more about this. I know the Citizens Utility Board is a great resource to learn more, as well as the Illinois Solar Energy Association. And Abby, what other resources or information do you have?
Well, there's still some state and federal incentives out there that can help mitigate the cost, because it can be a big upfront cost. Leasing is another great option to not have that full burden right up at front. In Illinois, we do have the solar renewable energy credits. So if your home is producing a megawatt hour, for every megawatt hour, you get this credit that you can sell on the market, which sounds very outside of my world, but your developer would be able to help you navigate that process. Federally, there's the investment tax credit as well. So you can deduct a portion of the cost to install on your federal taxes. And then commercially in Kane County, we also have the KEEP program, the Kane County Energy Efficiency Program. For commercial properties, you can do all sorts of energy efficiency upgrades, be it, installing solar, going to geothermal, but even just, re-insulating or getting better windows or water conservation measures can be paid for by this program, and it's paid for 100% upfront, which is really nice.
Wow, that's fabulous.
Yeah, and then the payback actually goes onto your property bill, because it's being funneled through the county. So it goes in your property tax bill, and it stays with the commercial property. So if you sell, they're going to still recoup their costs. It just is kind of leaning at property tax.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of nice, because again, they can be big investments up front, and then that way, people have more options for funding those kinds of improvements that are so important.
And I know the federal tax credit is set to expire, I believe, 2022.
I think so.
So I know it when you talk to the solar developers, a lot of them point out the urgency of getting moving on this if this is something that you want to take advantage of. So now that we're at home and we have, maybe some of us have extra time, it would be a great thing to do some more research on and look into.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The next tip we have from Earth Day is eco-friendly activities for all ages. So they gave a few fun ideas for young children, reducing bird collisions by decorating old CDs that none of us are using anymore, right?
But I still have one for no good reason.
We have them. Decorating those old CDs to hang in front of windows, especially windows that you have, frequent bird collisions happening. So that's a fun one for young kids. For a little bit older, they recommend making a bee condo, which is actually something I had never heard of, but I think you might know about those.
They're so cute. My son's green team at HC Storm School here in Batavia made them last year as an activity during their green team time, and it got me looking at all these different pictures. They're kind of adorable, like
Mhm.
fun little additions to your garden for sure.
So the idea of a bee condo is to give bees a residence, a small residence on your property without being a beekeeper,
Oh
but
yeah,
just giving them a.
yeah, because not all bees have a hive or a nest. Like that's how some bees, that's some of bees' habitat. So it teaches
Mhm.
kids a lot about the different habitats that these different pollinators have, and kind of the threats to their habitat, why it's important to protect them or provide them where maybe they wouldn't have it otherwise, because we want to keep pollinators close and everything. So yeah, it's such a cool little activity.
Yeah. And then for kids a little bit older, like middle school age, they recommended organizing invasive species cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of the invasive species, especially garlic mustard.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved in some garlic mustard polls locally.
Uh-huh.
Are there others in the area that you're aware of?
Yeah, and the stewards, so the Forest Preserve has their stewards, like Fabian South and then Fabian North in Geneva. So my friend Anna Baker is the steward for the Fabian South. I'm pretty sure her cleanup days are currently suspended, but I'm not sure. But yeah, they help you identify what the honeysuckle is and the garlic mustard, and give you all the tools to help clear it out. And they get great turnout for their cleanups for sure.
So that's an option for middle schoolish age kids. And then for older kids, they recommend planting a wildflower garden or butterfly garden. These are fun activities that kids can actually do right now around their own yards, if possible.
Yeah, definitely.
And we do have great local garden centers where you can still pick up plants.
Yeah, are they still open and they're doing curbside pickup and stuff? I haven't looked at
Many
it.
of them are. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm trying to think. I know my husband had just contacted, I think, Heinz Brothers in St. Charles. I know I've seen posts by a couple other garden centers, and I'm not thinking of their names right now, but I know they're doing curbside pickup, and you can go ahead and order.
Yeah, and they always have great arrangements of all the natives, what's native to this area, to help you pick out, this beautiful, colorful garden we did. We planted a wildflower garden last year for the first time, and I admittedly do not have a green thumb at all whatsoever. So this was a big, just labor of love without much hope of success. But so far, so good. Stuff is coming back, and I was so impressed that just with I think we had 3 or 4 milkweed plants, the beautiful little ones with the bright orange flowers. And we had over a dozen monarchs find us in our first year. And these awesome little caterpillars, we brought some inside to raise and watch turn into butterflies, and had the boys release them. And it was so cool. But we had parsley that had this other variety of caterpillar. I can't remember what it was now, but it was so fun. And the boys just loved it. So that's a fun thing to do.
Definitely a fun activity. We planted coneflowers and bee balm. I can't remember what else in front. And we also saw a lot of butterflies last year, a lot of monarchs. So it was fun. And then the final activity they recommend for all generations is pick up litter.
Yes.
A fabulous friend and her husband who picked up many, many bags of litter. I don't know if you saw their
the pictures. I was like, oh, it's so awesome.
It was wonderful. I mean, it was sad that all of that litter was there.
Yeah.
It was such a wonderful action that they took. It's something that any of us can do. And there are plenty of spaces around this area, anywhere in the district, where that can be done by families working together. The next recommended activity is starting a garden exchange, which feeds right into our previous discussion about the butterfly garden.
Yeah.
In my neighborhood, we do have something of a garden exchange. It's really neat. Someone started this last year, and she asked if people are splitting plants, that they contribute them to our communal areas. So we have like a central area where there's some open spaces, and she's trying to pretty them up. So just asking people in the neighborhood to contribute. So that was one fun activity, but there are a lot of ways of sharing gardening that we can do from safe social distance, dropping plants off or picking plants up at the end of driveways or porches. Do you have any experience with
I had a neighbor friend around here that started that was going to do kind of a seed exchange, and I wasn't able to go because again, I need all the help I can get. So if anybody offers me plants or advice or seeds, I jump on it. And so I think that's also a note to anybody out there that is really good at gardening or splitting plants. It's a great way to instantly make a friend, because probably somebody like me out there that would just love some guidance and some great plants. So it's such a cool idea. And I know that sometimes libraries, I'm trying to think if Batavia does, will have kind of a seed exchange area. Our Depot Museum, our historical society here, did a seed exchange the last couple of years this time too, which was very neat. And had little seed starter kits and little activities for kids. Obviously that's not happening this time around, but that's such a great activity.
Shared gardening, shared exchanges. So their recommendation was not just seeds and plant exchanges, but also repurposing wood for building planters, raised beds, things like that. So a lot of fun ideas there. And then one of the last ideas they have is keeping your body moving. So getting outdoors, enjoying the open spaces. And I know this has become especially popular right now as a lot of our other activities are canceled and we're finding ourselves with time. It's great, not just physically, but also mentally, to get out, be in nature, spend time out there by yourself or with a family member. We've enjoyed a couple long walks ourselves, and it is very calming for sure.
It is so nice to get out. I know I've loved to see, even sitting in my kitchen, I've just noticed so many new dogs that I didn't know lived out there. So many new people to see. And it's been fun because I follow a lot of, these walking and biking advocacy groups, to be reading reports about the uptick in walking and biking has been encouraging for me as someone who really wants to see a turn in kind of cultural norms, to see more people walking and biking for transportation and not just recreation. So I'm hoping a lot more people see that the destinations, if they're just walking in their neighborhood or walking maybe into their downtowns, that they see that everything's a lot closer than they maybe thought. And I think out here in the suburbs, we just naturally get in our car and go somewhere and don't think about an alternative. But our towns in Geneva, Batavia, they still have a core downtown. They're still relatively small places. And we can get a lot of places on foot and bike pretty quickly. In 2009, there was and I come back to this stat all the time. It found the National Household Transportation Survey found that 50% of all trips are 3 miles or less, and 28% of all trips are 1 mile or less. Distances that can obviously be biked or walked pretty easily. And yet 60% of those trips are under 1 mile are made by the automobile. So if we could just capture a few of those, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, if everybody could walk or bike one of their 1 mile trips, multiplied over all of us, it makes such a huge difference in vehicle miles traveled and emissions and wear and tear to our roads, and then it also has benefits for our own human health. So I'm hoping people see, they pass by their coffee shop while they're out for a walk and think, oh, when this reopens, let's walk here instead of drive here, because we can. So.
And a lot of those coffee shops are doing curbside pickup right now too. So
don't even have to wait. Walk there, because we've all got extra time. So you can see that it doesn't take too long to kind of get to these places.
Absolutely. It'd be a great change to see, and as a lasting change. And last but not least, we have volunteering for Earth Day. There are a lot of calls for action on the Earth Day website. So you can go there and look at the different calls for action, contacting your representatives, your senators, your city council members. And I think I may have forgotten to introduce you as a Batavia Alderwoman. If you live in Batavia and you're looking to contact an alderperson about environmental concerns and issues, definitely reach out to Abby. So the Earth Day website offers a lot of options for volunteering. Even if we're stuck at home, there are ways that we can still advocate for our environment.
Mhm. Absolutely. There might still be volunteer opportunities out there. I think there were some river cleanups that were still happening, um, and volunteering and supporting political candidates that can help push this along too is really important. You know, there's certain things that we can pledge to do ourselves, which is really important because again, small changes made by individuals multiplied across many individuals has a huge immediate impact. If we all walked 1 mile, if we all cut out single-use plastics, if we all did meatless Mondays, little changes can happen now, and that's great.
Yep.
To actually combat climate change, we're going to have some systemic changes to our food system and systemic changes to our land use and transportation systems and energy sector. And that's going to be, a matter of political will. So supporting people that are willing to put that fight up is really important.
Yeah. And it may be a matter of political will, but it, like you said, it really starts with the individual decisions to make those small changes incrementally. None of us can jump 100% in any of those things, but starting with the small changes and a lot of these little activities and alternatives that we talked about this evening are ways to get started on that and ways to really make an impact and make a difference.
Absolutely. Yep.
I appreciate you spending some of your evening with us.
I had no plans.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.